Welcome back to CLAS informal videos where we talk to lawyers, academics, and people in the cannabis industry about, well, just about some of the things that they do and how they may help you as students looking to get into the industry. This week, we're speaking to Pelley, founder and founder and head guy, shall we say, at Cultiva Law on the West Coast, based mainly. Would you say your head office is Portland, Oregon?
Seattle, and then we have offices in Portland, and we have an office in Los Angeles.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so the first question we're going to ask you, Aaron, is firstly, your legal practice focuses mainly on what areas?
Yeah, well, I guess we would say what we've done is kind of our niche is just to do just cannabis. It doesn't mean that we weren't going to be looking towards the future for other drugs as they kind of come online. But I started my life as a drug lawyer, and now I have a drug law firm, and we focus mainly on the cannabis side of things. We do some work with cannabis ancillary companies as well, but primary focus is cannabis law. But within that, it's corporate law, right? So it's litigation that's cannabis related, and it's transactional work, which is cannabis related, which are purchase and sale agreements, leases, and kind of working with small companies of every size.
And I suppose what students like to know is, you started as a drug lawyer, and when cannabis law didn't really exist per se. How have you been able to carve out a space for yourself in this sector, so to speak? I mean, what is it that sort of drove you to do that?
Well, I mean, that's a tough one, but I mean, because I think that when I found medical marijuana at the time that when it was still medicinal and that was the primary focus, I was very passionate about defending medical marijuana patients. So that gave me something that I loved doing. I will tell you, I loved it so much that I don't even know. Well, I know that getting paid was not important to me. I was really passionate about the drug and defending those people and defending that plant. And so at the time, it wasn't cool or sexy. I was a criminal defense lawyer. And I just kind of built my niche by doing that. Since then, I've kind of built a firm around me. I guess in some ways it'd be not necessarily that you need to, if you're going to go out on your own and you're going to strike out on your own, then focus on something that you love. If you love, video gaming, there's video game lawyers out there. If you love cannabis, then focus on that. But make sure it's something that you don't mind, that you don't necessarily want to get rich at doing first. If you're going to go out on your own, that is to say that because you're going to try and build a name for yourself, you're going to build yourself in that community, you're going to try and build your practice up. And so my practice is built up, so it looks like an overnight success, but it's a 15-year overnight success.
Well, all overnight successes are always a decade in the making, are they not?
So there was nothing that happened fast. There was nothing that happened easy. It was hard work, and I gave up a lot. My peers were working in larger firms and making lots of money, and I was kind of representing people that I cared about and cases that I cared about, and that's kind of what got me where I'm at.
So, I mean, I think you've probably answered this second question already, because we have formulated questions, but it says, what is the most important thing that law students should be focusing on when it comes to getting in this industry? I think you've just said it is essentially love for what you're doing and not a major desire to earn huge amounts of money in early in the game.
If you're striking out on your own, don't get me wrong. If you come to work for somebody, you should expect to get paid for your work.
Of course. Yes.
But sorry, what's the first half of that question was kind of like.
Well, so what's the most important thing law students should be focusing on when it comes to getting into the industry?
I mean, I kind of have some thoughts on that from a person that looks at resumes, and I actually am not necessarily the final. You'd think I'd be the final word and who gets hired and who doesn't in my firm. But I think it does speak to, your real, foundational knowledge. And again, this kind of goes back to your passions when you're going to someplace. So when I look at people's resume, I'm looking for something that tells me that they care about this. And if it's not in their resume, then I certainly want to hear it in their story to me. And so that's part of, that, I actually had a person that applied that wrote, not to promote necessarily your things, but you have like a place where people are able to publish their own work and present that work to you and publish that work. And one of the attorneys that came to me all they'd ever done before was tax law. And I was like, they looked like, not particularly interesting, at least on paper. They had enough experience, but what I saw was he had published a number of different articles that he was interested in and you could do that with a number of different places where you can get out and get published. You don't necessarily have to be in your bar review to show the person that you're applying for a job you have an interest in that particular subject matter. And I would say that transcends to sports law, entertainment law. If you have an interest in that, if you can't show it in your resume,
generate content of one sort or another.
Or at the very minimum, be prepared for that question so you can really answer it with some authenticity, or it just doesn't, I'm not going to connect with you. So.
Fantastic. Okay. What areas in school might a student like to focus on to be a better lawyer in the cannabis and, let's say, psychedelics field as well? In the standard.
So, I think that the beauty of cannabis laws is that it's so overarching. When you say it, you're just basically saying business law, right? So there is some basic business law courses that you're going to take no matter what when you're in law school. I think there's some more interesting cases that you can get into in terms of the IP side of things, intellectual property and patents, that might be helpful. But at the end of the day, I'm not always interested in what your law school background is as much as I'm interested in all the other things, because law school is almost like it tells me that you've already passed the test. You're smart enough to get through law school.
Once you have the piece of paper, you have the piece of paper.
Yeah. I've got that much going for me. Now show me the other stuff, right? Like showing me your grades, I don't care. Like I didn't get great grades in law school. That wasn't the most important thing to me. But, if you were the other side of that too, and again, kind of going back to that, if you're thinking you're going to strike out on your own and you're going to do this for yourself, because, I partly did that because I didn't see anybody else doing it for me, then I would suggest that you try and either get some basic business courses. Because it's trial by fire as a lawyer. They don't teach you anything about running a law firm. Everything they're teaching you in law school is to be a better worker bee. That's all they really want. They want a better corporate, up in a high-rise building lawyer. And if that's what you're going to be, then that's great. And if that's what your goal is, but if your goal is to run something, own something.
Well, that actually leads to the next question, which is, what does managing a cannabis-focused law firm entail? The short answer is everything. The long answer is as long as the Bible, I presume.
Yeah, well, they say you wear a number of hats, and the sooner you realize which ones you shouldn't be wearing, the better. And so I'm not really particularly good at HR. Not bad at HR. It's just there's people that are better at hiring people than me. My instinct is, well, he didn't seem like an asshole, so I'm going to hire him. And so that was like my threshold test, but I think that, there's I have an HR person now that works for me, and she's really good at kind of maybe asking more questions than, figure it out in 5 minutes that I could get along with you and have a beer with you. There's accounting that you have to handle. There's, you have to deal with conflicts of interest because the cannabis industry is so small. There's, drafting documents and doing your legal work, but then there's the business of running a business. And it's not easy. So if you have some of that already coming in and you're going to go out on your own or strike out on your own, then that's awesome. If you think you're going to go out on your own, then take the opportunity to learn from people that are in smaller,
so essentially, while you're at college, it's probably a good idea. Well, most people have to work anyway, but to pay more attention, if you can get a job in a small business and pay more attention to how that business owner is operating, really some of the tasks and things you have to do aren't too different, say, in an F&B business as they are to a law firm.
Right. And you can do that too. In fairness, I spent a year working for somebody else before I went out on my own. Straight out of law school. And that year was my education. It was like, how's this guy doing this? How's he managing this? And it gave me that foundational information, but there's still so much more to running a business.
Well, that's right. You only learn it as you go along.
Exactly.
My lesson this week is dealing with the tax office.
Oh boy. Yeah. And that one's its own nightmare. I would say that, the sooner, the really cool thing though about being in cannabis is that, especially when you are running your own company, is that cannabis is just filled with entrepreneurs, and you're an entrepreneur yourself. So you can really relate to your clients and the people you're working with. Not all of them are little mom and pops that are, 10 or 15 people. Some of them are giant monsters. But at the end of the day, most people are building this thing from the beginning.
From get-go.
Yeah. And so you're seeing that. And so you understand their struggles and you can relate to them because you're doing that also. So.
Okay, and then our final question is put you on the spot. Do you offer internships, externships, or mentor opportunities at your firm? And if so, how should students get in touch with you?
So we do offer internships, and then we also do the school related, like where they pay and we part and we pay part to kind of keep them in. I think that right now all three of our offices are filled up through this summer, but it's always good to check. And I'm never, I would always check. You have nothing to lose because sometimes people go, sometimes people move, anything can happen. And you can reach out to Autumn. It's like the season, AUTUMN, at Cultiva Law, which is like Latin for cultivate. So it's CULTIVALAW.com. And yeah, ping her if you have any interest. And then it's mentorships. I have done mentorships with other people that are going out on their own and starting their own firms, kind of just acting as a person to relay questions and kind of help with. And I just feel like that's my way of giving back because I had people around that did that for me. So I just think it's great.
Okay, well, look, fantastic. Thank you very much, Aaron, for giving us some of that information. And hopefully that's of use to our people watching the video this week. If you do want to get in touch with Aaron, as I said, there's their contact with Autumn, but I'll also put something on the platform when I post it with the URL for the website for the firm as well. Do get in touch if you would like to speak to anybody at the firm. Thank you again, Aaron, for your time.
Thanks for having me.